Well, well, well. What do you know? Another bank failure. Donnie Chocolate here, barbershop professor, coming at you with another lesson. Okay, so today, what we're going to be talking about is banking, right? A lot of you saw in the news, maybe you didn't see in the news. It was something that was kind of actually kind of weird. I would think that I would see more news on it, but I didn't see it quite as front page as I thought it would be. It was there. It was on the, your CNNs, your AP Newses, your MSNBCs, and different things like that, but not really at the forefront, right? That was really interesting to me. Well, there's probably a couple of reasons to that, and we will get into that. But let's talk about First Republic. Was it First Republican Bank? One of the banks. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Um, I guess the federal government had an understanding that this bank was in some type of trouble, right? They started soliciting offers for other entities and banks to actually purchase the bank, right? Over the weekend. And today, Monday, this is Monday, it was announced that that bank essentially had gone bankrupt. And actually, a majority of it was actually purchased by none other than JP Morgan Chase. I'll let that one sit. By none other than JP Morgan Chase. Now, there's about four large banks, right? JP Morgan Chase is one of those banks, right? We are during the 2008 2009 recession. I'm sure you all heard the phrase too big to fail. Too big to fail. Too big to fail. Well, that was true. We have, and still, we had, and still have banks that are too big to fail. I believe JP Morgan Chase probably makes up, I think I saw an estimate of 25% of all deposits in the US. That's a pretty big deal. Now, I'm the barbershop professor. You go Google it. You figure it out. I don't want you just taking my word for stuff anyway. Okay? Read up on it. Figure out how much they owe. But I know they have a ton of the U.S.'s deposits. All right. So with that being said, why are all these banks closing? Well, these banks are closing because of risky bets that they are making with different, what do they call it? They have some like crazy unique term for it, like um, financial. Man, I wish I could remember the term, but that's all right. They have, all kinds of financial ways and different things to buy or to create and to they create all these big old fancy words, right, that you can't remember, or that you might not have ever heard of or anything like that. Okay, so these banks are essentially closing because of risky practices, right? So as these banks close, they get gobbled up by none other than bigger banks, right? Which all that talk about too big to fail, too big to fail, too big to fail. There hasn't been any policy preventing banks from either taking a larger share of what they had before or breaking the banks up so that they are not too large to fail, right? Now, when it comes to banking, something interesting happened. Let's take it back to the past, right? Let's go take it all the way back to Bill Clinton. Actually, let's take it back a little bit further. I think it was either the 70s or the 80s where there was a savings crisis, right? So this crisis happened and there was a Great Depression. A lot of people lost large amounts of deposits and different things like that. Well, there was a rule in place. Look it up. It's called Glass-Steagall, right? Glass-Steagall was put in place so that banks could not gamble with your money, right? Every dollar that you put in right now, they only have to keep a small fraction of it, right? because not everybody's going to be using their money at once, right? And we live in a digital age, so that makes it even easier. At the same time, what they do is they use the majority of that money, probably 90, 95% of that money, something crazy, right? Um, and put it on the stock market. They just go play with your money, right? They go play with your deposits, right? Now, most of us are under the 150,000 FDIC limit, which is like if you have 150,000, I think they just moved it after SVB closed. So if you have less than $250,000 in the bank, then you're fine. You're insured by the government. If a bank collapses, you're going to get your money. Essentially, that's what the government is saying. So you don't have to worry about that, which is a good thing. And at the same time, we are still allowing banks to engage in risky behaviors where they continue to fail, right? So this Glass-Steagall was put in place way back in the 70s, 80s, one of those. Look it up. And what it did was it said, hey, if you have money for deposit, your checking accounts, your savings accounts, that's what it's for. It's not meant to be used on the stock market. It's not meant to be used in different equity accounts and different things like that. It's not used for you to take and make more money off of. People are depending on you to hold their money, right? That's what banks originally did, right? Hold money, okay? So if it is a checking account, a savings account, you can't gamble with that money. Well, there was other accounts, right? Designated. I don't know if people remember money market accounts. I remember those way back in like high school account, like high school, right? There was a such thing as a money market account, which meant this was a savings account, but this savings account was money that they used to put in a stock. People were emphasized to have money market accounts because they earned a higher interest, right? The bank was earning a higher interest on that deposit by and in turn they gave you a higher interest, okay? Ooh, interest is a good one too. I think we might get to that in a second. So that is what Glass-Steagall was, right? Fast forward to the Clinton days. Clinton, yes, the Democrat. Clinton, can you believe it? Democrats are just as in control of money as Republicans. Say it ain't so. Bill Clinton himself, under his administration, actually ended Glass-Steagall, which in turn opened up all opportunities for risky behaviors for banks. Next thing you know, we run into 2008, the Great Recession, as it's called, and when the housing bubble popped. That is a whole different thing I'm not going to get into. The other thing that we're running into right now when it comes to banks is that interest rates are rising, right? So as interest rates rise, essentially money is more expensive. They lend less money out to people and the banks make less money. Okay. So with that being said, you get banks like SVB, First Republic Bank, right? These banks that are quote unquote like they're not too big to fail, but this recent bank failure was the second largest bank failure in the United States history. It's fairly significant, right? So what I suggest you do, well, first off, let me tell you, I'm not gonna have you running around like a chicken with your head cut off. The world isn't over. Most of us, again, if you honor the $250,000, you're safe, right? Things are different than the Great Depression because we don't even pay stuff with cash anymore, right? What do you even need to take your money out? You know you're paying debit anyway. So um, there are things and the nature of things that are slightly different that weren't before. At the same time, keep in mind what these practices are and just be knowledgeable when it comes to policies. One thing to look for is who is filling the pockets of the politicians you vote for. Remember that. who's filling the pockets and the coffers, right, of the people you are voting for, because those are always the ones they are beholden to. Politicians never bite the hand that feeds them. And that goes for banking, oil, whatever, big farm. You can name them all, right? They're beholden to them. So be on the lookout for that. Everybody stay safe. Everybody stay informed. Class is dismissed. This is Donnie Chocolate coming at you, the Barbershop Professor. Peace.